Okay. Hi, Manuel. How are you?
Hello. Hi, Douglas. It's a pleasure being with you.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. I appreciate it. So, I'm looking at your bio. You were the former Minister of Finance to the government of El Salvador. Is that correct?
Yes.
That must have been an interesting job.
Oh, it was. It was particularly because at the time, we were making very good reforms. This was at the end of a civil war that we had in El Salvador, in which the currency devalued and fiscal situation was very bad, and we put together the country again. And we became even investment grade, which is it is a very good thing to have. It's a grade that says that you are likely to repay your debts. And there were only three countries in Latin America which had this, and we were one of them.
Great. How long ago was that?
This was from 1994 through 1999.
And now you live in the United States?
No, I lived in the United States before, but now I am living in Spain.
Oh, you're in Spain right now?
Yes, yes,
Oh, okay.
it's nighttime here.
Okay. I never know where anybody is because with the internet, we can connect all over the world. So you've got a book out called In Defense of Liberal Democracy, What We Need to Do to Heal a Divided America. I guess my first question I want to ask you is why do you think that we are so divided politically at this point?
Well, I think that there are, I would say, two, two answers to this. Number one, I think that the we are going through a technological revolution worldwide, but the leader of this is the United States. And technological revolutions tend to create division in societies. Why? Because there are many people who take advantage of the new technologies, and because of that, they earn much more money, they make a lot of money, and there are other people who are left behind. And this creates a difference in income distribution, which can be very, very divisive. And also it can create regional divisions, like what you see in the Midwest, parts of the Midwest, the Appalachian, those areas, and the two coasts, which
Yeah.
are really, they have become very, very rich in comparison with these other regions because of the speed at which they are adjusting to the new technologies. And the best example is, let's say, Silicon Valley, California, which are where you even have these problems of the houses becoming too expensive for people who have not adjusted because there is this high demand for housing coming from the big companies of Silicon Valley.
Right, that's true. Do you suppose that we went through a similar situation at the turn of the last century when electricity, telephone, automobiles, the Industrial Revolution, do you suppose that those technological advances also created division in American society at that time?
Yes, yes, it was exactly the same situation. It really started a little before in what we call the Gilded Age, and then it went through the first at least 3 or 4 decades of the 20th century, where for the first time, you had the creation of these billionaires which is very similar to what is happening today, but also you had a tremendous division in terms of political, the policies that had to be put in place to face this new revolution, you know. I discuss in the book the effect of the Great Depression on income distribution, on political divides. And actually the Great Depression was in large part, it was a consequence of this change that was taking place all over society. You know, it was really very difficult, and actually the presidency of Roosevelt was devoted to deal with this problem. You know, it didn't solve it economically. You know, the depression continued, and it was very, very hard for 10 years. But Roosevelt kept the country united. You know, that was the contribution of Roosevelt. But this was the situation, the objective situation was very similar to what we are seeing today. And you can see that also in the United States. You didn't see much of, let's say, the same kind of populism that we are having today, or extremism, these extreme divisions that you see in Europe. You could see them in Europe at the time, you know, and this was the reason why you had the communism. It became a very strong ideology in that time in Europe, and also National Socialism, the Nazis. So you see that, you know, as the technologies are changing, the relationships between people change as well. And the institutions are mechanisms that societies create to channel relationships. And when the relationships change, then, you know, the institutions may become obsolete, and then you have to change them. And then there is this chaotic situation in which the old institutions are dying and the new ones have not emerged as yet. And this is something that is happening in the United States and in Europe as well, and all over the world, I think is happening.
The subtitle of your book is called What We Need to Do to Heal a Divided America. So I'll just ask you that as the question. What do we need to do at this point?
Well, I think that there are two kinds of things that should be done. One is, let's say, more technical, which is the problems of division have to do a lot. You know, they originate in the different speeds of adjustment of different groups to the new technologies. So what you have to do is you have to focus on the people left behind and help them, you know, through education so that they can adjust more easily and more rapidly to the new technologies, so that the difference becomes, you know, much narrower than it is today. That's one. But the other one is political, I think. I think that people should understand that if the country allows these divisions to become too pronounced, the country is going to suffer tremendously. You know, I think that when you see that almost any issue becomes, it splits society into halves. And people, you know, I lived a lot, many years in the United States in the 1980s and 1990s. And actually, you know, the country I see today is completely different. In those days, a politician was good if he really could create consensus, and if he or she could put together people and, you know, keeping in place diversity, find a common ground, and then act on it. Now, I think that people are looking for politicians, for leaders that will destroy the other guys, that will destroy, you know, the right will destroy the left, or the left will destroy the right. And these kind of things could really create a chaos. And if you create a chaos, a political chaos, then, the only solution could be, all the solutions are very bad in that situation.
Civil war.
I don't think that there could be a civil war in the United States, but what I perceive now could be what is happening. You have one person like Trump in power, and then you move to a completely different guy who is, let's say, on the left, okay, Biden. But then now you are seeing that people are coming back to Trump. And then maybe again, after Trump, people will move back to somebody on the other side. And you will have this, the country, going from one extreme to the other, which is extremely dangerous. And it will weaken the country a lot.
I think the pendulum, the political pendulum, has always swung in this country back and forth, but I don't think it's swung as radically to one side and to the other as it has, at least not in quite some time.
Yeah. I agree. In the
Yeah.
United States, well, you had it's a very common common occurrence that after the Republicans win the presidency, in the midterm elections, the Democrats control the houses and so on. But the difference between the politicians on one side and the other, and the way they communicate, this is what has changed. Now what you see is this. I don't see in most of the politicians this urge to put together a bipartisan majority to do things. It's and when you have these issues in Congress, for example, you are very close to 50-50%. This was not like that in previous times. It's because the senators of one party and the other talk to each other. There were ways and of creating a union, to eliminate divisions, and the politician was considered to be a success if they put together a bipartisan coalition to do something. That is not like that today.
I agree with you. I think that there is too much drawing a line in the sand with the various the bills that they're trying to pass, and people are saying, this is it, we're not going to budge, we're not going to compromise, we're not going to change this for that, no quid pro quo. I agree. And nothing gets done that way. If people stay like that, absolutely nothing will get done in the Congress.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there is something I think people should consider. When Washington left the presidency, he wrote something that is called sometimes the testament, the political testament. And he said he started, and this was drafted by the two most brilliant people he had, which were Madison and Hamilton. And they drafted it it's really a wonderful document. And it says, well, there are two things in the United States that we should keep. One is freedom, and knowing the United States and knowing the American people. He said, I don't think that I have to convince them of this, but I have to convince them of the second one, which is essential, which is the unity of the country. If they allow people to destroy that unity, they will destroy the country. And that is what I am afraid of, that people are taking for granted that the country will survive if they destroy institutions, if they attack the other ones in a terrible way, and the country will not survive. I'm not saying that it's going to die, but the country will not survive as the big power, as the big success it has been. When you get into these kind of situations, when the country becomes chaotic, it goes from one extreme to the other extreme. It's always fighting, and sometimes fighting for things that are not worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
Eh,
Yeah.
i- if they do that, there is a moment in which people start saying somebody should come and put this in order, and they become willing to sacrifice freedom to get that. That is the most dangerous moment. When people start saying, I don't care if this person will be tyrannical, but if he is going to put the country in order, I will vote for him. That is the kind of danger I see. And then, because chaos is not a viable solution in a country, people eventually, they feel and they become afraid that the country is going into chaos. Then what they will do is they will elect somebody who will not be, they will trade freedom for they will trade freedom for order, and that is very dangerous.
I agree with you. Manuel, we do have to wrap this up. We are out of time. Do you have a website that you want to give out for your book, or a personal website?
No, I don't have a website, but you can find it in Amazon. You can find it in Penguin Random House as well.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.